What up, it is Marcus Nice with Dads. Now, if you are wondering what traits are going to equal potential bust in the Dynasty rookie class, we have 3 players. Each have this huge red flag, and we have to go through, are we believing in the red flag, or are we not extremely worried about it? And so we're going to go through the first player here. It is Jordan Addison. These are top 10. A lot of them a couple of these guys are going to be basically top 6, 7 players in your Dynasty rookie draft, especially if you're in one QB, then there's a couple of them, and we're going to have a quarterback in here as well. But Jordan Addison, the biggest red flag is his size. He's 173 pounds. When you have a wide receiver who is 5'11", 173, that size is a huge concern. Now, Devontae Smith had that exact same size concern, but when it became Devontae Smith, we saw that Heisman type, just absolutely destroying defenses, could not be stopped at the collegiate level. That is not Jordan Addison. At least that is not his last year in college. His 2021 year, 100 catches, 1593, and 17 touchdowns. But in 2022, 59 catches, 875, and 8. That is not something that goes, whoa, that is extremely elite his last year in college. It is concerning that Jordan Addison might not be that type of prospect that can survive at being 173 pounds. I mean, we've had 3 players in the last 10 years, 20 years that have been successful underneath that 180-pound mark. Deshaun Jackson, John Brown, Devonta Smith. Those are the 3, and that is it. And so do you think Jordan Addison can be the 4th? Do we think the NFL is going into a little bit more of an offense where you are having players that are a little bit more undersized that can survive because there is a lot more protection against these wide receivers? We see that with a lot of different rules. You can't hit the defenseless wide receiver. There's a lot less, it seems to be, at contact at times. So you may not have to be 190 pounds, 185, 190, 195 pounds to succeed at the NFL level. But Jordan Addison, his biggest concern is size. And the people that succeed with being a little bit lighter weight are an absolute elite wide receiver. And can Jordan Addison be in that category? I love his separation. I love his route running. And I think that he can be a successful wide receiver. It's why he's still my wide receiver too, because I have some concerns with the other wide receivers as well. But I have him now separated with Jackson Smith-Njigba. JSN is my wide receiver 1, and it is going to take a catastrophe to make that switch. I mean, you're going to have JSN in the absolute worst spot and Addison in the absolute best spot. If Jordan Addison goes to Kansas City or something along those lines, that could be a bump enough to put him into a situation. Or if he goes to Buffalo. He goes to Buffalo, and then I'm looking, okay, well, if Jackson Smith-Njigba goes to the Patriots, that could be enough. Or a Ravens team, that could be maybe a bump enough to move Jordan Addison into that wide receiver 1 spot. But right now, wide receiver number 2. And honestly, he could move down. I mean, there's there's situations that he could definitely move down as well. But let's go through the number one. The number 1 prospect is everyone has been talking about, and I've been getting the most questions about. It's Anthony Richardson. His big red flag, of course, is not size. It is inconsistency. And I think part of that is being basically a 1-year starter. His 1-year starter, I mean, if you look at his stats, 2,500 yards, 25-49, 17 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's his only year. That's all we get. That's all we get out of him. And so when you have a 1-year starter in Florida, you're trying to look at basically what we did when we looked at Trey Lance. Especially Trey Lance was an incredible runner as well. When we look at it, we go, okay, can this translate to the fantasy level? Can he? And I believe 100% in his athleticism. He's the most athletic quarterback we've probably ever scouted. I mean, ever. He's 6'4", 244, 4.43 40. He is Cam Newton with Justin Fields' speed. He is Cam Newton size with just an incredible velocity on his football. He has all the attributes you want. But can he make it onto the NFL football field and be consistent enough to be a long-term play? And when I mean long-term, I mean more than a few years, more than 3-4 years. We've seen Jalen Hurts be enough of a passer to continue to be a starting quarterback, and he'll be a starting quarterback for the next decade or at least the next 5 years, at least with health. But at the beginning, why he was being drafted later in a lot of Dynasty rookie drafts is because we didn't know if he was talented enough as a passer to even ever be on the field. And you go, well, what type of player would be that? What type of player are you like referencing to? I am referencing to Terrell Pryor. I'm referencing to Malik Willis. Like Anthony Richardson, you could tell me in 5 years he is the quarterback number 1 in Dynasty. I'd be like, wow, like that is in the realm of possibilities. You could also tell me he is a great tight end. Now, when I say great tight end, he plays tight end. Or he plays wide receiver or something now these days. I go, yeah, I can probably see the transition. He probably is athletic enough to just be on the football field. I'm not saying that I don't think he'll ever, per se, like do that, but I'm just saying that is in the realm of possibilities. There's a lot in the between there. Like, I think that Anthony Richardson, his tape, if he can figure it out, if he can get into a system that can hone that cannon of an arm, you could have a wonderful fantasy fantasy quarterback here. But definitely inconsistency 1 year. There's a ton more. There's a lot lower floor and a lot higher ceiling when it comes to CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. And so that is why owners, including myself, are having a hard difficulty when we're looking at pick number 4, pick number 3, pick number 4, pick number 5. Like, where do we take it? Where does JSN go? Where does Gibbs go? Especially in Superflex, like, where does Anthony Richardson go? And all I'm going to say is we have to see where he gets drafted first, because there's been a bunch of hype even with Malik Willis, and then he gets drafted not even in the first round. So we got to see that he's a top 10 pick, which I think he will be. But does he go to the Colts? Does he go to the Raiders? Where does he go? That is going to be a huge key here. The last one we're going to talk about is Quentin Johnston. His thing is, I'm going to call him the one-trick pony. That is his biggest red flag. He doesn't run many routes. I mean, he is a straight-on, like, you're a deep threat. Did not run a ton of routes when he was at TCU. He's also known for his size and speed, which we thought he was 6'4", 220. I mean, that's what he was listed. He's 6'4", 215, 220, somewhere around there. He was 6'3", 208. It's an inch. It's 10 pounds. So he's a little bit smaller than we thought. But the biggest things that I see are he drops. Lots of drops, lots of inconsistency here. And so when you have a lot of drops and he runs a lot of deep routes, and that's kind of his thing. And he's just more of a contested catch type of player. But why that concerns me is I've seen the Laquan Treadwells. I have seen the N'Keal Harrys. I have also seen the Drake Londons, which Drake London is on the higher spectrum of the not as great of a separator, not as great of a route runner. More of a few route type of route tree here. So Quentin Johnston, these are not the receivers that I like. And so that's why he's wide receiver 3. I can see him even moving further down. It's just when you're 6'3", 208, and your biggest thing is you can't separate on the NFL field, you got to be elite on some other things. You have to be elite. You have to either be extremely fast, you either have to be extremely good at route running, or you have to be able to be extreme. Like, there has to be, like, what is you have to have a great quarterback or something like that. Like, what makes Mike Evans? What makes these AJ Green type of players extremely well? Well, they're elite in more than one category. And right now, Quentin Johnston is kind of elite in just one category. And that is the biggest concern for me personally. Going through the tape, I go, oh man, I feel like I'm starting to get more and more sour as I watch more and more. And I go, man, this wide receiver is great in college, but man, you relate that into NFL style, these wide receivers don't seem to translate very well. Unless you're, again, elite in multiple categories, like a Jamar Chase, who is not as big, but was incredible at yards after catch. He's a lot better route runner than a Quentin Johnston. I mean, I just look at the wide receivers, the big wide receivers that seem to fail. They are into this category of what Quentin Johnston is, and that is the N'Keal Harrys. That is the Laquan Treadwells. It's these wide receivers that, again, college, they're great. You play some teams that are going to be having corners that are not going to be able to take the 6'3", 208-pound speed and body size, but when you get to the NFL, that all gets erased because these corners are a lot better. And so you need to be able to be elite in a couple different things and not just be this deep threat. Can't just be Chase Claypool. Man, that's another wide receiver that I felt like looking at his tape, Chase Claypool, like I didn't know if he was going to be a tight end or a wide receiver coming out of college, because I was like, man, he's big, but he's more of just kind of an elite deep threat. And so, like, I could see him potentially trying to move to a tight end because he's not a big separator. He's not a great route runner. And so, Quentin Johnston is in that category for me. So, let me know what you think of these three players, and let me know who your red flag players are and what their, I guess, biggest or their biggest weakness is. And let's go. Let's see what we got going on. So, we'll see you guys again soon. Peace out. Take care.